where faith, culture, and politics collide. This is Give Me Liberty Media. This is the Tyler Morgan Show on Relentless Daring Media Network. Welcome back to Land of Bourbon and Bad Decisions. This is the Tyler Morgan Show live on twitch.tv/Tyler Morgan Show. Or maybe you're watching this later on YouTube. If it doesn't drop the recording or doesn't drop the stream, which for the past few weeks has been a thing. Hopefully, using StreamYard, it doesn't do this. Anywho, watch this on YouTube, youtube.com/@the Tyler Morgan Show. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, get notifications whenever a new episode will actually go up. You can't tell, it's just slightly frustrating to me. Or checking this out on podcast. I am available on all of the podcast platforms, the Apples. I want to say Stitcher, but I think Stitcher is no more. Definitely Spotify, Amazon Music. So if anything Amazon related, Amazon Music, Audible, listen to it there. iHeart. Yes, I'm on iHeart. If it's a podcast platform, you can probably find my show. So be sure to go there, subscribe, rate, review, all the good things. Before I get into this week's shenanigans, let me talk to you about coffee. Yes, that's right. Coffee, one of the greatest beverages in all the land. I know I've got all that wonderful liquor back behind my head. Coffee is the one thing that I can have on a daily basis. I can drink it at work and no one has a fit unless I'm just sitting there drinking coffee all day. Not that I would, because that coffee is gross. And when I want good coffee, I go to the finest purveyor of great coffees in all the land, and that would be American Pride Roasters. American Pride Roasters lovingly roast and grinds to order your coffee before shipping it out, so you're not getting some third party wholesaler where they slap somebody's label on it and it's pre-roasted, pre-ground. They just, like I said, slap a label and drop ship it. No. Dave takes his time to ensure the roast is just right. Make sure he has the perfect blend of beans and grinds it up, like I said, to order. So if you're one of those, you like your cold brew coffee where he's had like the big chunks of ground coffee bean that sit and stew overnight in the fridge, you can do that. Or if you have an espresso machine, you want the super, super fine grind, he will grind up an espresso grind for you. That way it'll run through your espresso machine. Check out all of their amazing blends and flavors of coffee at aprcoffee.com. APR Coffee, historically great coffee. All right. So getting into everything. There is a whole lot of everything to get into. I really want to talk about the debates. I'm going to try not to spend the entire night on it because I would like to discuss some of these Supreme Court rulings that have come out in the last few days. But the debate was just 2 days ago, and it has been what everyone has been talking about. The problem with the debates is a lot of people have been making the suggestion that it was done this early so the DNC can make a decision. Is Joe, don't mind me, I'm just kicking things. under my desk. It's really loud. Just did it again. They're wanting to know the DNC needs to make a decision on if Joe is able to run again. And based on his performance, I don't think Joe is in a great shape to run. But from I'm what I've been seeing is that Joe is still going to be on the ticket. That is currently what is out there, was being put out, is that Joe is not dropping out of the race, that Joe will remain on the ticket for president. Meanwhile, Donald Trump. I don't know why I was so shocked by it, because I mean the man has a history of not answering comfortable question or uncomfortable questions very well. Um there were several times, like when he was asked, you know, if on election night Joe Biden wins, will he accept the result of the elections? And the first time he was asked, he went on this big spiel about something completely off topic, and they had to come back and ask him again. And he's like, if it's a free and fair election, I will accept whatever the results, however they may be. But it's just like, why can't you just say yes or no? I get it. You have a base that does not want you, Donald Trump, to just roll over and play dead. Um, and I get it. That makes it very, very difficult to be able to answer the question honestly, because he's not going to come out and straight up say, no, no, I won't accept it. If I lose, it'll be a terrible thing, terrible, just terrible. And he's not going to say that he won't accept it. He did give a conditional response of, well, if it's free and fair and blah 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 blah. But is that really the answer that we need? Is that really the answer that we should want to hear as an American? There's a lot of other shenanigans that went on with the election. Pardon me. I said part of the election, the debates. Um, like the whole golf thing, the challenging each other to a golf match. I was scrolling through the Facebook reels earlier, and someone replaced the guys behind the podiums with Happy Gilmore and Shooter McGavin with their little tete-a-tete about, you know, if I win, I my grandma gets her house back. If you win, I quit. And Shooter drops the forever famous "I eat pieces of blank like you for breakfast." Oh, you eat pieces of blank? No. And it's just like, seriously, that's how it sounded. I have a handicap of 6. Okay, maybe like 15 years ago, you can barely ride a bike without tipping it over. You can barely walk across the stage. And then Biden had the audacity to say, if Donald Trump walks. Joe Biden was making Donald Trump fat jokes. Like, seriously? This is where we're at? Donald Trump fat jokes. I get it. Donald Trump is, how does Jeff Fisher put it? Athletically overweight. He's not a junior petite. He's a little on the chunky side. He is a smidge. He is a smidge hefty. Got it. But I mean, he's not Taft. He doesn't have some gargantuan waistline. We haven't heard stories from Secret Service agents about having to pull a stuck Donald Trump out of a bathtub. Joe Biden's going to make the joke. He's going to make the comment. Hey, if you walk the whole time, I'll play you around the golf. Joe, I don't think your arms even bend the right way anymore to swing a golf club. You can barely walk across the Rose Garden to get on Marine One to board the helicopter. You can barely walk. You couldn't even walk down the steps after the debate without Jill holding your hand and guiding you down and just setting your feet. Also stop slowly. Oh, it's okay. Put your feet down right there. Oh, that's good, Joe. You did it. I mean, the whole debate honestly was a crap show. It was great on content, but very low on substance. Being asked, or Joe Biden making comments about Donald Trump. You had sex with a porn star. I mean, come on. You can have the showmanship off stage. You can do the dumb petty bullcrap off stage. On stage, reducing the debate to ad hominem attacks, and I will give Trump credit where credit is due. He actually did a decent job of not resulting to nothing but ad hominem. Was there some from Donald? Yeah, there was. But Joe Biden, he had like an entire 2-minute response to the moderators that was, oh, you had sex with a porn star, 34 convictions, blah, blah, blah. It's like, Joey, the only reason that he has those convictions is because of who the prosecutors were. Now, Joe, when Donald Trump says it was a political prosecution because he is a political opponent. Oh, no, it was not that. It was not a political opponent. You and all of your sycophants on the left were having a conniption over Donald Trump asking Zelensky to look into you and your family and their connections with the oligarch-run Burisma. And the threat to withhold money if they didn't replace the prosecutor looking into Burisma during the Obama administration. But yeah, Donald Trump says that, and he does not make it, make federal funding or U.S. funding hinge on this. But you say fire this guy, or I'm going to withhold this $1 billion, and quote, son of a bitch, he did, end quote. Donald Trump asked a foreign leader to look into business operations of a of an individual, an American citizen in his country, and you weren't even a declared opponent yet, but Donald Trump is doing this, to go after his political opponents. Well, did he go after any of the other Democrats who had actually who were still hemming and hawing and deciding if they were going to declare or not? No, he didn't go after them. It's not like he was going to attack all of the political opponents who could possibly be running for president in 2020. He asked about one individual who was not a declared candidate. So therefore, he was not a political rival at the time. So when Donald Trump stands there on the stage and says, this is because I'm your political rival, your DOJ is going after me because blah, 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 blah. And you have to look at the fact that for Donald Trump's 34 convictions to stand as felonies, they have to be, occurring alongside to enable or cover up another crime. Paying a porn star to keep her yap shut about the sexual relationship she may or may not have had with Donald Trump through a catch and kill scheme is not illegal. The Federal Election Commission did not prosecute Donald Trump because they could not prove that this catch and kill scheme was done in order to affect the outcome of the election. Because you look at all the other stuff that got thrown at Donald Trump in the lead up. You had Donald Trump being accused, or they had the tape of Donald Trump from that bus, the whole grab him by the hoo-ha thing. That didn't hurt Donald Trump. So do you think the idea that Donald Trump banging some skank right at while his wife was at home with their newborn child, do you think that would really affect the voters? Do you really think that would affect the outcome of the election? Because I don't think it really would have if it had come out. The voters who voted for Donald Trump in 2016, I wasn't one of them. Hell, I wasn't even in the country in 2016. I was in Afghanistan, and when I did my absentee ballot, I thought Trump was garbage. I thought Hillary was pure trash, so I didn't vote for a presidential candidate when I filled out my absentee ballot. Plain and simple. But the people who would have voted for Donald Trump, or the people who did vote for Donald Trump, would have looked at this story coming out and gone, just a crazy October surprise. You try to derail the Trump train. And they probably would have been right. They would have seen this story and just gone like, meh, it's Donald Trump. It's baked into the equation. I know those of you who are watching this on video, seeing me drink straight from the bottle. I'm not a stark raving alcoholic. In fact, I've had this bottle sent for about a year and a half. I'm just down to that last little bit. And we've been reorganizing our office. So I'm not quite sure where my whiskey glass is. So cheers from the bottle. But all this is just to say, you know, when they have to bend and flex and do all these mental gymnastics to be able to say, okay, this is where he done messed up. But because it's only a misdemeanor and we cannot prove we don't have another crime because the FEC didn't prosecute. Donald Trump didn't do it to cover up another crime that he was charged with. They just had to keep hinting and hemming and hawing around. Well, this is what he was accused of, and this is what New York law says. Okay, well, if you can prove beyond a shadow of or beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump broke this law that is on the books in the state of New York, then why the hell didn't you not charge him with that? Because without it, you don't have the underlying crime that he was A, trying to cover up, or B, was this was done in order to facilitate that crime. They can't. They're just not able to, period, in the story. And as such, it just ends up being garbage. So yeah, I'm not a huge Donald Trump supporter, but I can put one and one together to get two. If you know what I'm saying. If you have to manufacture a crime in order to get a misdemeanor bumped to a felony, that way it extends out the statute of limitations that had expired on the misdemeanor charge. If the state of New York has to revise their laws on when you can, on how long you can wait before you file a civil suit against somebody for an alleged sexual assault, in order to get a former president brought into court to have, face charges or face allegations of a sexual assault, it seems like they're not obeying the law. It sounds like they're making the law obey them. But as Steve Dace likes to say, we are not a nation of laws and never have been. We are a nation of political will and always will be. Because that, in and of itself, right there, that is like the key sticking point. The political will was to find a way to prosecute Trump, to make Trump not eligible to run. But here's where the kicker is. You just because you're a convicted felon does not mean you cannot serve in federal office if elected. Being found civilly liable a for an alleged sexual assault that there's no actual proof of. It was E. Jean Carroll's word versus Donald Trump. And in a city like Manhattan, where it had like a 98% turnout for Hillary Clinton in 2016, a 99% turnout for Joe Biden in 2020, it's going to be kind of hard to find a jury that isn't going to, find you liable or find you not guilty if being tried in that city. But yeah, all this stuff, and then I could sit and talk forever on Biden's physical performance. But it's kind of like the old expression, beating a dead horse, kicking a man when he's down. It's really hard to justify that. We all saw how he did. Yep, Politico that night. Biden bombed. You had CNN and MSNBC and all these other left wing outlets that were just like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" They just they were in the tank, and then they finally saw what anybody who has been paying attention for the past 4 years has been seeing with Joe Biden. They saw the freezes. They saw the where he breaks down to as Donald Trump said, I don't know what he just said, and I don't think he does either. They finally saw it. And then we broadcast it for all the world to see. So Putin, while he may not have too much interest in American politics and our machinations of Washington, D.C., if he was paying attention to the debates, he could say, yeah, Donald Trump kind of kissed my ass a little bit, but, you know, he made it worth not invading Ukraine. Whereas you look at Joe Biden, what do I have to worry about? And go ahead and invade Ukraine. How does Xi Jinping watch these debates, not think that's who may be sending the reinforcements to Taiwan? Screw it. Let's go to Taiwan. I mean, so much. It's just things could have been done way different in this country. Unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where being bombastic is more important than substance. And like I said, these debates, there's a lot of show, there's a lot of flash, there's a lot of pizzazz and razzle dazzle, but it was amazingly short on substance. Sure, Joe Biden spewed a few lies that got called out, and same with Donald Trump. But other than that, people going like, well, I don't think that's accurate, and either looking it up or finding some sort of fact checker that did it for them. So then they just have to read the fact check. They don't have to do their own searching. But yeah, there's some people got educated through, like I said, the fact checkers or looking it up themselves. But all in all, yeah, it really didn't do much to go. to get the undecided voters to go, yeah, you know what? I think voting for the old guy who's feisty is better than voting for the old guy who may have just crapped his pants on the stage. And honestly, this whole undecided voter thing, I feel there are far fewer undecided voters than what polling would have you believe. I think you have a lot of people who say, well, maybe I'll vote for this guy, but I'm still You have a lot of people who say that. But deep down, they really don't want to say is I am 100% voting for this guy over here, or I am 100% voting for that guy over there, because I don't want to seem like an unreasonable douche to my friends and family who are on the opposite side of the aisle. Unfortunately, we still have to wait for uh, the whole presidential immunity thing to go on. I don't necessarily know that it will happen. I'm just kind of seeing some headlines that are pointing out that it's going to be released soon. Well, SCOTUS got an extension on when they were had to have all of their rulings released, and they pushed that so some of them will release Monday and will probably include the presidential immunity, which I don't know how I feel on that. If a president commits an actual crime while in office, obviously impeachment and removal from office is the prescribed method of dealing with that. And then prosecute him criminally afterwards. So, if what is to stop the lawfare from happening to Biden should Biden lose? And because of his policies that he enacted as president that led to all these people who have been killed here in the last 4 years by illegal aliens from suing him for his uh, executive malfeasance. What is to stop him from being prosecuted by a state judge as an accessory because it was his policy decisions that allowed Juan Pablo illegal alien over there to come across the border? He's caught, says I'm an asylum seeker, and he stays, and then he rapes and kills a little girl, an adult woman, a college student, somebody's dad who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time while this douche was committing a crime. Is that how we want to? I mean, is that how we want to react to that? If for some reason he is, or for some reason, if the Supreme Court rules that presidential immunity is not a thing. But we've had some other meh court rulings. I mean, the Amy Coney Barrett and uh, uh, Crapinaw, they uh, just kind of said to heck with the First Amendment, and they ruled that, oh yeah, the White House, the members of the government, they can uh, tell Facebook and Twitter and any other social media platform what they can or what they should get rid of. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Really? I thought y'all were the conservatives. I thought y'all were all about preserving the Constitution. No, no, no. They gave a wide open door for any administration, not just this one, for any administration. Hey, Facebook, we don't like that. People who are saying that thing that we don't like, take it down, strike it from the record, have it removed. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Facebook as a platform, they have the right to moderate and censor whatever they want. I don't agree with it because, pardon me, they are the public square. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. This is where information and ideas are exchanged between people. And I don't believe it is the government's place to be telling anyone what they can or can't publish, what they should or should not allow to remain. If a person posts to a social media platform and is a post that does not violate whatever terms of service that you agreed to as a member of this site, this should stay up. Doesn't matter if it is horribly, egregiously wrong. It doesn't matter if it is an absolute disgusting opinion. If it doesn't violate the terms of service, let it stay. But when you alter your terms of service to include things like medical misinformation, things like that, I'm sorry. As a grown ass adult, you should be able to look at something online and go, yeah, that doesn't sound right, Scooter. I think I want to pass. But no, no, no. The SCOTUS has overturned a decision, which is a very similar case when it comes to the government trying to tell a newspaper, hey, you should strike that from, you should strike that. You should not run that. That was just overturned. But I said there were some wins, some wins. The SCOTUS ruled on January 6th. All those defendants who were charged with obstruction with an official proceeding were wrongly charged. So I'm ready to see all these people being taken back into court to have that charge that they were either found guilty of or pled guilty to, removed and have their sentences altered for those who are serving longer sentences. Because a lot of times that was like the key thing to getting some of these longer convictions. It wasn't getting it wasn't trespassing, it wasn't refusing to leave a prohibited area. It wasn't the milling, it was the obstruction of an official proceeding. How many of these people are going to who are in jail right now, because they've been found guilty and they've been sentenced? How many of them is the government going to go, well, F. Guess we got to let them go. No, they'll find some reason to delay releasing these people because the people in charge are freaking They don't want to call them evil. Evil is a not a great way to describe them. They're hot garbage. Yeah, we'll say they are hot effing garbage. But some other good news, Chevron deference, which goes back to a case against Chevron where the Supreme Court ruled that, you know, in the in the absence of clear directions, in the absence of clear legislation, defer back to the federal agency and those rules. And a lot of people said, no, that's wrong. You should, if there's any ambiguity, you should always, you know, err on the side of freedom. And if there's not a rule, don't enforce something that's not there. But this is from New York Times, so I'm probably gonna have to go to reader mode here. That way it doesn't cut me off. Justices limit power of federal agencies, imperiling an array of regulations. The New York Times already has their knickers in a twist. That's knickers, Knickers. Don't think you heard something I didn't say, or else I will not like you. And I like a lot of people, so don't make me not like you. A foundational 1984 decision had required courts to defer to agencies' reasonable interpretations of ambiguous statutes underpinning regulations on healthcare, safety, and the environment. Supreme Court on Friday reduced the power of executive agencies by sweeping aside the longstanding legal precedent, endangering countless regulations and transferring power from the executive branch to Congress and the courts. Because, yes, the executive branch having too much power is never a bad thing, per the New York Times. The precedent, Chevron v. Natural Resources Defense Council, one of the most cited in American law, requires courts to defer to agencies' reasonable interpretations of ambiguous statutes. There have been 70 Supreme Court decisions relying on Chevron, along with 17,000 in lower courts. The decision all but certain to prompt challenges to the actions of an array of federal agencies, including those regulating the environment, healthcare, and consumer safety. Yeah, the interwebs have been blowing up with, "Oh my God, you're on your own now." Aaron Brockovich. Aaron frickin' Brockovich. Hey, Aaron, was it the EPA that brought down that chemical company, or was it a bunch of private attorneys that brought down that chemical company that made you freaking famous? Oh, it's so funny. Because like I said, New York Times, another article. Regulatory agencies suffer their latest blow in Chevron ruling. Let's see if I can actually. I can't get on. But so the case was if the USDA, the Food and Drug Administration, whoever sends an observer onto a fishing vessel. In this case, it was a herring fishing vessel. That while they are there, they are to be paid not by the federal government, because, they're a government employee, but they're to be paid by whoever is running the boat. So, you already get paid by the government. Why should we pay you? And this is one of those things where it has been just ri- ridiculous. I've been trying to find a better article about it, but it's a Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raymondo. times that I've been trying to find an actual decent but let's see. This is from SCOTUS blog. 35-page ruling by Chief Justice John Roberts. The justices rejected that doctrine, calling it fundamentally misguided. Atlantic Kagan dissented in an opinion joined by Justices Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Surprise. Kagan predicted that Friday's ruling, quote, will cause a massive shock to the legal system, end quote. As the justices took up their appeals, agreeing to address only the Chevron question in Relentless v. Department of Commerce and Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented in Relentless case, but was recused from the Loper Bright case, presumably because she had heard oral arguments in the case while still a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals, blah, 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 blah. This is actually two things they ruled on at the same ruling. So, Chevron deference, Roberts explained his opinion for the court on Friday is inconsistent with the Administrative Procedure Act, a federal law that sets out the procedures that federal agencies must follow, as well as instructions for courts to review actions by those agencies. The APA, Roberts noted, directs courts to, quote, decide legal questions by applying their own judgment, end quote, and therefore, quote, makes clear that agency interpretations of statutes, like agency interpretations of the Constitution, are not entitled to deference. Under the APA, it thus remains the responsibility of the court to decide whether the law means what the agency says. So basically, the agencies, whenever they've been able to write their own legislation, because Congress punted, and they're not laws, they're regulations. So we can interpret the regulations that we wrote how we want to interpret them. Roberts rejected any suggestion that agencies, rather than courts, are better suited to determine what ambiguities in federal law might mean. Even when those ambiguities involve technical or scientific questions that fall within agencies' area of expertise, Roberts emphasized Congress expects courts to handle technical statutory questions. And courts also had the benefit of briefing from the parties and friends of the court. Yes, those amicus briefs. Moreover, Roberts observed, even if courts could or should not defer to an agency's interpretations of an ambiguous statute that administers, it can consider that interpretation when it falls within the agency's purview, a doctrine known as Skidmore deference. Stare decisis, the principle that courts should generally adhere to their past cases, does not provide a reason to uphold Chevron doctrine. Roberts continued, he characterized the doctrine as unworkable, one of the criteria for overruling prior precedent, because it is so difficult to determine whether a statute is indeed ambiguous. So stare decisis is also pretty well done. That's not going to stop other judges from, you know, only making rulings based on stare decisis. And because the Supreme Court's constant tinkering with the doctrine, along with its failure to rely on the doctrine in 8 years, there's no reason for anyone to rely on Chevron. To the contrary, Roberts suggested the Chevron doctrine, quote, allows agencies to change course even when Congress has given them no power to do so, end quote. Roberts indicated the court's decisions on Friday would not require earlier cases that rely on Chevron to be overturned. Mere reliance on Chevron cannot constitute a special justification for overruling a decision upholding agency action. Because to say a precedent relied on Chevron is, at best, just an argument that the precedent was wrongly decided, which is not enough standing alone to overrule the case. Gorsuch filed a longer concurring opinion in which he emphasized that today the court places a tombstone on Chevron no one can miss. In doing so, the court returns judges to interpretative rules that have guided federal courts since nation's founding. He sought to downplay the impact of Friday's ruling, containing that all today's decision means is that going forward, federal courts will do exactly as this court has done since 2016, exactly as it did before the mid 1980s, and exactly as it had done since the founding. Resolve cases and controversies without any systemic bias in the government's favor. Kagan, who read a summary of her dissent from the bench, was sharply critical of the decision to overrule Chevron. Congress often enacts regulatory laws that contain ambiguities and gaps, she observed, which agencies must then interpret. The question, as she framed it, is who decides which of the possible readings of these laws should prevail? For 40 years, she stressed the answer to that agency has generally been the agencies, with good reason. Agencies are more likely to have the technical and scientific expertise to make such decisions. We when you get to expert classes in anything and relying on expertise, Glenn Beck has a great series on his podcast channel right now. Is it The Beck Story? I believe it's called. And he's really diving into the reliance on expertise and how it went on to fuel the eugenics movement. Well, we're experts at this, that, and the other. We're experts at deciding who should be having sex and who shouldn't. Well, the Supreme Court were the experts that decided that a young woman who was the daughter of a somewhat an allegedly promiscuous woman, she was raped by her foster family, or by a member of the foster family, the dad, the brother, a cousin. No one really knows, or at least he didn't really go into it. And the experts decided that, yeah, well, the foster family said she was hypersexualized and hyper blah blah blah, and she's not very smart. But in all actuality, her IQ was decent, was actually slightly above average. And Oliver Wendell Holmes, was the Chief Justice at the time. Yep, basically just ripped her apart about, you know, all she's going to do is just continue a race of idiots. That's not an exact quote, but it's a good general summation. So when this poor young woman was, after she had her daughter, which ended up being adopted by the same foster family whose male relation raped her. It's a hell of a place for your baby to end up. After she had her baby, she was sterilized against her will because you're just going to see how this child turns out. And, your promiscuous ass just turned out another idiot. And then her daughter, much like the woman who gave birth to this child, ended up also being above average intellectually. So, yeah, the eugenics movement based out of expertise. But that's who Kagan says that we need to rely on, these self-proclaimed experts, these experts, because they're in the field. They work for that agency. They work for the USDA. By God, they know farming. Wait, you know how many USDA people have never worked on a farm in their lives? They're city kids. They wouldn't know a clod of manure from a clod of dirt. They don't know. One thing they do know is they know how to bury stuff in the gray areas of the bureaucracy. Well, my friends, he's retired USDA worker. You know what? If it came to an ambiguity, he erred on the side of the farmer. He did it every time. He knew all about the ways you can bury stuff in the bureaucracy. There's a farmer who you don't like. There are ways you can make an application disappear. But my friend would never do that. He's like, I really don't like this guy, but all of his paperwork's in order. He got everything done on time and ahead of schedule. And so I'm going to do my job. He didn't use his expertise to shoot anyone down. If a person came in and was not eligible for a loan program, he told them. If he was offered a bribe or someone from the community who has some renown and some sway within the community came in throwing their weight around, he stood his ground. There was no need for Chevron doctrine to tell him how to do his job because he did his job to the best of his ability. But no, you have all these people who are complaining because now, well, the USDA is going to be gutless for inspecting food. The FDA is going to be gutless on inspecting drugs. No, because here's the thing: if you are a farmer, on the commercial level, you have every financial reason to not screw it up. Because once your vegetables hits the food supply, when you harvest it and you send it off to that processor, you know if there's any sort of breakout of disease linked to whatever your product is, it can be traced back to you. And it is very costly if you have a machine that is spitting metal fragments into the food and then somebody eats it and it slices up their esophagus and they choke to death on their own blood or whatever. The farmers and the food processors, they have an incentive to not get sued. So they will do everything they can to make sure that what they're doing is right. Will there still be the yahoos and the kind of, you know, wannabe outlaws who go out of their way to kind of circumvent the system? Yeah, those guys will still be there. You will still have them, and they will eventually be caught and they'll be forced out of business because they can't afford the fines. You will still have the people who, try to cut corners on disposing of hazardous waste. You will have the people who, we've been, for the last 30 years we've done it this way, and it's safe, it's effective. Yes, it may take forever to do it, but it's the right way. You'll have those people who care enough to do it the right way because they know spending the extra money to do whatever federally regulated task it is, it may cost more now, but in the long run, they're not going to get their asses sued off and end up filing for bankruptcy because they cut corners and now they have a $100 billion lawsuit against them. So the whole people freaking out, the Aaron Brockoviches and everyone else losing their marbles. It is kind of like the debates. A lot of flash, a lot of bang, a lot of noise. But at the end of the day, just no substance. All right, that's going to wrap up the show for tonight. So, again, thank you very much for listening. Remember, don't do dumb things. If you're new to the podcast, please be sure to whatever your podcast platform of choice is, go there. As same 4 things every time. Number 1, please subscribe or follow. Apple's weird; they want to do their own thing. You follow on Apple or Apple Podcast. So follow, rate it 5 stars. I'll accept 4, 3 and below. We need to have a conversation. Seeing this on video, you see at the bottom of my screen right there, it says Fake Tyler Morgan on Twitter or X. Follow me there. You can DM me. You don't even have to follow me, DM me. Just shoot me a DM. My DMs are open. I might see it in a fairly reasonable time. But, tell me why you had to go 3 and below. I want to hear from you. Hell, if you want to message me anyways, by all means, message me anyways. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. It'll be fun. So once you have rated it, please write a review. That's item number 3. Say something nice about the podcast. Say something that will make people want to listen. If you want to be a jerk and say stupid things, by all means, feel free. But just remember, I will call you out. If not by name, I will mention the fact that you said something stupid in the review. Like saying I spend far too much time talking about myself and am a wannabe Alex Jones. Yeah, that still going to bring that one up till someone surpasses it with even ungodlier stupidness in the Facebook, or not Facebook, the Apple podcast comments. So anyways, so now you have found that you have subscribed, liked, and reviewed, or subscribed, rated, and reviewed. Please, the final step to all of this, please share. Send a link to this episode or the podcast in general to someone who you think will enjoy it. Or send it to somebody who you think will absolutely hate it and lose their minds when have to listen to it. Either way, it's a win for me. I'll accept my plays. So please do it. That's going to do it for tonight. And as always, stay relentless. The Tyler Morgan Show is a Relentless Daring media production. The Tyler Morgan Show is supported by its listeners. To support the show, go to ko-fi.com/Tyler Morgan Show to donate there, or relentlessdaring.com and hit the donate button at the top of the page to set up your donation. All music used in the Tyler Morgan